Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Nick Thompson. You may know me from Netflix Love is Blind, but on this podcast, we sit down with guests from all walks of life to hear their story, remove stigmas, and uncover what makes them tick. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Conversations with Nick Thompson. I'm your host, Nick Thompson. Our guest today, Dr. Rachel Green. And no, I am not making up that name. It is her real name. I verified. But today we're going to have Dr. Rachel Green, who is a chiropractor and wellness coach, on the show to talk about wellness, holistic health, and the vagus nerve. If you're wondering what the vagus nerve is, I think you're going to want to listen to this, because when we initially connected on Instagram, I had no idea what the vagus nerve was. I did a tiny bit of research before realizing, you know what? I am going to ask her to come on the show, and we'll get this recorded, teach everyone, we'll learn together. So, you know how I feel about holistic health and wellness. I really think it's important that we have these broader conversations with experts and people who are pioneers in their field, or taking a more holistic approach to health to find the source of the issue, instead of masking it with maybe medicine or something where there's another way to go. And again, I think there's always space for medicine. There's always space for the science that comes with these medications, and they have a role. But I think it's super important to have conversations about how we can better our lives to maybe avoid getting to that point. And that's one of the reasons we're going to have Dr. Rachel Green on today. She is the Blonde Chiro on Instagram. She's a great follow, and shares lots of useful and helpful information on wellness, the vagus nerve, and really how you can just improve yourself in living a more holistic life. So without further ado, let's get to Dr. Rachel Green and this interview with her. We're going to talk about the vagus nerve. We're going to talk about natural health, and we are going to talk about wellness. So let's get to it. And I hope that you enjoy this. Hey, everyone. Today we have Dr. Rachel Green on our podcast here, and she is a chiropractor, but also an online wellness coach. So wanted to have her on today. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I know it's been a little bit that we've been trying to link up, so I'm happy that we're finally able to.
Me too, and thank you for making the time. So I think we're gonna learn a lot today. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get there, let's start with some small talk questions. The first one is there a movie or TV show that you're really looking forward to this year?
Well, I was really looking forward to Emily in Paris, but I watched that in one night, season 3. But I would say I'm a sucker for You.
Oh
That's
my
coming
gosh,
out
me
soon.
too.
And I don't generally like things like that, but I don't know what it is about You. I'm always sucked right into it.
I am too. I love that show. I
Yeah,
watched season 1. So I actually,
I know.
in an ironic sidebar, I actually watched season 1 after it had been out for a little while, and I watched the entire thing on a flight to Sweden. And that show, to watch the entire thing, like really binge the entire thing, really messes with your psyche,
Yeah.
especially season 1, because I kind of remember I was like kind of rooting for Joe and Bex in that.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't think I
I
should be
know.
rooting for them, but I kind of
And then as
was.
you continue to watch it, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a weird one, but yeah, I'm excited for that too. It's going to be a different kind of season, it seems like.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not normally someone who watches that, but then afterwards I'll do like Outer Banks or something just to
Okay.
lighten the lighten the mood a little bit.
So what's your
Something
favorite
light.
genre of movies or shows?
Um, I'm more so into like the romance, the rom-com,
Mm,
but like I said, there's something about You, so
yeah.
it just sucks you right in
I
and you
mean,
want to binge watch it.
usually there's like 3 episodes somewhere in the middle that are like a rom-com. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll give it that.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite wellness rituals?
Ooh. Well, you're going to learn a little bit about that, but I love cold showers. And the reason being, it
So
stimulates
good.
your vagus nerve, but it just makes you feel so good. Like you can get out of the shower. For me, I don't really do a lot of the cold plunges, but I do the cold
Mm,
showers last 30 seconds to a minute. I just turn it right down. Um, and you just feel like you could run 10K. Like you just feel better. Your skin feels better. I feel like I'm less inflamed. Like it's just one of those things that I could never not do anymore.
We're
So
gonna
that's
yeah, we're gonna talk more about that now because I
yeah,
I saw that on your Instagram today,
yeah,
and it's like the one
yeah,
thing I feel like I can't do. So you're gonna have to
yeah.
convince me.
I will, I will, and then you'll thank me later because
Yeah.
it feels so good.
So, what's your favorite dish to cook or eat if you don't like to cook?
Ooh. Well, I'm not great at it, but I love making, it's called gnocchi tartuffu. So
Mm,
it's like mushrooms and it's gnocchi, but it's mushroomy. It's hard to explain. It's like a cream sauce, but anything like that, and it's baked, so
that
it's
sounds so
crispy on
good.
the outside, but then super nice on the inside. I'm just a pasta girl in general too.
Okay.
So carbonara, all of that. Just send me to Italy. I'm good.
Have you well, that's a great let's go there. What's your favorite place that you've traveled?
My favorite place would be Croatia, and I just actually
Mm,
went to Cyprus this past summer. And Cyprus is a place I feel like not a lot of people have visited, but
no.
I went there for 5 days, and it was so amazing. So Croatia and Cyprus would be my top two.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I
yeah,
love Croatia. That might be my favorite place I visited too.
yeah.
It's
It's
so
stunning.
beautiful. Like it is like it's Dubrovnik's the capital. Is that or is it
Oh, I don't know if it's or Zagreb, the capital. One of those.
yeah, I can't remember what's the capital, but
But Dubrovnik, yeah,
it
it's
is just like a
beautiful.
closed in capsule in time.
Yeah,
And it's so
yeah.
interesting that they've been able to keep it that way.
I
It
know.
just
Yeah, it's
wandering
like
the
a.
cobblestone streets. It's
I know. And I think they filmed some Game of Thrones episodes there too. So it's cool just to think that it's right where you are.
yeah, exactly. Well, when I was there, there was about 52 tours for Game of Thrones
Yeah.
locations going on at any given time. So they definitely filmed.
Yeah.
There were a few I recognized. I remember that, but they definitely filmed quite a few scenes there because I think that was man. I actually do cognitive dissonance with Game of Thrones because I'm so mad about the last season. But
Really? I
I think
haven't
it was
watched it.
King's Landing that,
I
which you would
think
know.
that rings a bell.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't watched it, but that rings a bell.
So have you been to Italy then?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Just the southern coast. But yeah, Amalfi and it was stunning there
Very
too.
nice.
Toronto. Yeah. It
Very nice.
all the pasta.
If
All the baked goods.
it's all like it's so good and
Yeah.
the food there is so fresh.
So
There's a
fresh.
restaurant that's my favorite Italian restaurant outside of Italy that is southern Italy or southern
Mhm.
Italian I should say. So if you ever come to Chicago, let me know. I'll send you over
Yes.
there. It's awesome.
Perfect.
I just took my friend that was in town there a week ago, so it's
Nice.
very good. um, so what did you want to be when you were growing up? This became
This is
like
a
my
funny
new
story.
favorite thing to ask people because there's like always progression and it's so interesting to like hear about it.
Totally. So the first thing I ever wanted to be, and we were actually talking about this at Christmas, was I wanted to be a robber, um, which is hilarious to look back on because now I'm a chiropractor. So very different. But I wanted to be a robber, probably because me and my brother would play cops and robbers. I was always a robber. Um, but then growing up, I knew I either wanted to do medicine
Hmm.
or some type of like holistic health healing. And so when I was in university, I wanted to do physiotherapy. And then I shadowed somebody, excuse me, who did chiropractic. And once I was exposed to that, it was like that was it for me. Just being able to diagnose, but also treat holistically,
Hmm.
coming up with the root cause. That just resonated with me, and seeing all the major health improvements and the effects you can have on people's lives. I applied to chiro school and got in, and there's only one school in Canada, so
Oh
it was in
wow.
Toronto, which was well, there's two, technically two, but it's quite tiny, the other one. So applied, went to Toronto, and now I'm here, back in where I was studying.
That's so interesting. So what was it about the holistic side of things or how did you discover holistic health?
Well, being an athlete, I was always injured,
Mm,
with knee injuries. I'd broken both my ankles, so it wasn't
jeez.
just like let's just tape it up or let's just resort right to surgery. What else can we do from that holistic standpoint? And then I've had some, I was already in chiropractic school at this time, but it just, kind of reinforced the reason why I became a chiropractor with some family members who've had some weird, mysterious symptoms. And so getting to the root cause and not just using medicine to kind of put a band-aid on it. Of course, medicine is there for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
but what could we do to get to the root cause? So that was the biggest thing for me, is what is the root cause and how can we optimize people's health without having them have to take different types of medication if they don't need it.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I'm sure you know this. I feel the same way. Like medicine is there for a reason and we shouldn't
Yeah.
completely discount it. Everything's a little bit nuanced, but interesting thing about the ankle thing. So I have seen a chiropractor I saw the same one, shout out Dr. Hendon, um, 10 years maybe before I just was always in the city, and that was out in the suburbs where I grew up and was working at the time. But I was playing dodgeball and I jumped to dodge a ball and I came down and I thought I broke my ankle. Everyone in the gym heard it pop. It was instantly swollen. I couldn't put any weight on it. I wonder if I can get the guys to like insert a photo here so people can see how bad it was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It was
Yeah.
bad. And so like the
Yeah.
next day I like stumbled myself into an Uber and went to an immediate care, and the x-rays not broken, whatever grade, what's the worst sprain? Grade 3 sprain. It was the
Mhm.
worst sprain you could have. And they're like, you're going to be in a boot for 6 weeks. You got to do physical therapy for probably another 12 after that. And I'm just like, my my whole like next 3 months is just shot. And
Yeah.
so I go and I have the boot on. I have my x-rays. My chiropractor said to have the x-rays sent to him. And so he was like, it's not broken. I'm going to adjust it. And I need you to come in the next 3 days in a row. And then I need you to obviously give me some exercise and stuff. I was playing flag football 10 days later.
Yeah.
And people don't believe me when I say that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but I have people that can corroborate it. I was
Mhm.
playing 10 days later. Was I 100%? No, but
Mhm.
95%. I put on a brace that worked, and I was literally just like, it was nothing after a couple weeks. And to
Yeah.
think I could have just sat there in that boot for 6 weeks, losing any mobility that I still possibly could have had. And
Yeah.
I love that because I feel like it tells the story of what you're saying. A
Mhm.
little bit of, hey, sometimes you can do other things and get to
Yeah.
the root cause.
Yeah. Exactly. And it is that you do have to explore your options for sure. Like sometimes if you do break it,
Mm-hmm.
like you need to have either a boot, surgery, whatever, how severe it is. But yeah, definitely explore your options and get second opinions or third opinions, and yeah, explore
Wow.
your options and then make the best one for you.
So you had two broken ankle. Like, what's the worst injury
So
you've
I didn't
had?
break them at the same time,
Okay.
which makes it better, but both of them were by stairs. So I don't know, something with me and stairs that we don't get along. And it was like I broke one and then the other. So yeah, I
Oh my
guess I'm just
gosh.
clumsy, but stairs and me were not getting along at that time. So
Jeez. Mine, I sprain my ankles all the time and they just like give out. Like I'll just be
yeah.
walking and it'll just give out. And then if I don't, like I've kind of learned how to like not try and stop it necessarily and try to just like let it happen. Cause when you stop it, that's when it's like, but
Yeah,
it's so weird. It's ankles taking us down.
ankles. I know. And you need them
Yeah.
like for walking. So you're always kind of feeling it every step you take if it's injured. I know.
Yeah. So then you're in chiropractic school. You come out. What's your view of the world? What's your view of medicine? How old are you when you graduate? Because you go an additional 4 years.
I was 25 when I
Okay.
graduated, but turning 26. So 25, and then actually COVID hit within 5 months of me graduating. So my careers has
Jesus.
looked very different. I'm very thankful I was done school at that time and not going through school during the pandemic. But um,
How would you with
yeah,
chiropractic go through the pandemic? Because don't you need like, I don't know what is it called? Like your not your practicum. What is it?
kind of, yeah,
Yeah, your
your
clinical. Yeah,
clinical
yeah.
year. Um, I don't know. That's a good
Oof.
question. I was just finished, like literally graduated. I just started work.
Thank God.
I'm sure it was very different for them. I don't think they did a lot of one-on-one. It was more virtual, which is tough
Yeah.
to do as a chiropractor, but it can
How,
be done.
wait, how do
Um,
wait, how do you do virtual as a chiropractor?
it would be more so just like education and
Okay.
checking them out, kind of seeing what their range of motion is looking like, what their symptoms are, but you definitely cannot adjust
Yeah.
virtually. So I guess it would have been something along those lines and more towards the education piece.
So,
It would have been
wow.
tough
So
for
this,
sure.
yeah, this is, I mean, not cool for you, but so you just graduate.
Yeah.
What are you doing when COVID hits? And then how do you shift, or what did you end up going?
Yeah. So in Canada, we were shut down for a few weeks, actually. Chiropractors, physios, massage therapists, osteopaths. We were just shut down for a little bit. And then, to people were still in pain. So we actually ended up being able to go back into work. It was emergency cases only, which is tough to define because
Hmm.
people's quality of life, that's you can't really put that on a scale.
Right.
So emergency cases only, and then it gradually eased up. But we were allowed to do in-person things again, just a limited amount of people in the office.
Right.
But now we're back full swing, and we were masking at that time, and now we're not masking.
Okay.
So things are starting to look normal again.
Okay. Well, that's good. Was there a big surprise to you when you were in school, or anything that you were just like, huh, I never thought of this, or never knew this, or never would have thought this?
Um, it was actually quite nice to be in school from the sense that we're able to diagnose similar to medical doctors.
Okay.
We can order x-rays too, which is always, it can come in handy for sure when you're
Hmm.
working with different cases. But as a surprise, it was just a lot of it was maybe wanting to get more into like the holistic side of like nutrition,
Hmm.
different therapies in which we can or can't do, like kind of understanding that collaborative approach would have been better, I think, and educating different professionals that we can work together as a team. That would have probably been where
Right.
I would have liked an improvement. But
Well, is
other
it?
than that, I don't think anything was really a surprise.
I think it's changed a lot now. I really like, even from, I remember the first time I went to a chiropractor and people were like, voodoo medicine or whatever you want to say. Like, I think
Yeah.
that stigma is much different now. It's as not as prevalent. People are more open, especially people that are, I think
Yeah.
you're younger than me, but like people that, millennials maybe and lower. So how do you, like, do you have any thoughts on the stigma around that, or
There definitely
yeah.
was, and I hear it sometimes too because you see different videos, and
Hmm.
um, it's up to the chiropractor to just make sure you're educating the patient and doing what they're comfortable with, and
Yeah.
making sure you give them options to or alternatives. But the stigmas, it might be still there, but I think we've done a really good job at educating and just acknowledging that we are just trying to find the root cause of what's causing your complaints, and
Hmm.
by getting proper motion and proper mobility through different areas of your body, it can help with inflammation, it can decrease pain, improve your range of motion. So who wouldn't want that,
Yeah,
right? So,
that's
and from a wellness standpoint too, we can educate on supplements, we can educate on sleeping positions, we can educate on so many other different aspects too. And so yes, our bread and butter is adjusting and exercise therapy modalities, but we can educate on such a wide basis
hmm
too. So you know, hopefully it starts to go away completely, but it might be still there a little bit.
yeah. Well, even as you said, if it's like an integrative approach, I think that also like opens people's minds to it a little bit more, who think maybe
Yeah,
it's, this, like I said, like voodoo medicine type of thing, or pseudoscience type of
pseudoscience.
medicines. Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, I think that's great. Now, one of the things that we had initially connected on and talked about on Instagram was the vagus nerve. So
Hmm.
I tell us, what is this? What role does it play in your overall health, I guess?
Yes. Yes. So the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It is one of the longest nerves in the body. It's the longest cranial nerve, and vagus literally means wandering or wanderer.
Mm,
So what it is it's one of the prime nerves that's responsible for our parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system is when we rest, digest, relax, and recover. Okay, so it is one of those prime nerves that allows us to do all of that. But the cool thing about it is that it comes from our brainstem, from an area called the medulla oblongata, and it goes all the way down into our neck, into our chest, and into our abdomen.
Oh,
So,
wow.
it's quite long, but it innervates almost all of our organs, which when you think of it, we do have quite a lot of organs.
Yeah.
And so it influences our organs, it influences digestion, our heart rate, respiration, inflammation, how we respond to pain, things like that.
Mm.
So it's a long nerve, but it is responsible for so many different unconscious body processes. So it's important to regulate it and tone it so that we can get into that parasympathetic state.
Well, and if it's going all the way from your brain to your gut, like that's literally the link between your brain and your gut.
Yeah.
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 Or a link, if not, obviously there's other things too, but that's interesting. So
Yeah.
being that long too, I bet there's a lot of places that can get disrupted or influenced.
Yes. Yeah. I like that word. Influenced is a good word
Yeah.
because it for sure can get irritated in different individuals. But what I look at with patients and clients is what their vagal tone is looking like. And so there's different ways to assess it, but it's one of those things that it can show up in many different places in the body. So sometimes people have like IBS symptoms, digestive problems, troubles taking deep breaths, inability to, feel that relaxation no matter where they are in their environment.
Mm-hmm.
Hoarseness in the throat. Um, they are chronic mouth breathers. All of those can influence our vagus nerve and cause low vagal tone.
I feel like you just named every symptom that I like ever have.
Yeah, so it does a lot. And so it says a lot about us as human beings too, because it's actually a nerve that allows us to connect with people and that social engagement. Um, so it's on the outside, but also on the inside too.
So what happened? I mean, obviously you said there's some symptoms. Like, how can people know if it's the vagus nerve or if it's something else? Because like I honestly, I'm into holistic health. I read a lot of stuff. I listen to a lot of stuff. I'd never heard of it before connecting with you on Instagram. Or if I
Really?
did, it like
Okay.
never resonated or I never paid attention or took any of it in.
Yeah. So how do people know? Well, it's I guess the first thing is educating people on what it looks like and having more practitioners
Mm.
understand it. But like I said, it can cause hoarseness of the voice, digestive problems. So really, if you are having any type of gut issues, look to the vagus nerve.
Wow.
And the gut brain axis, it is that nerve that's responsible for it. It's for the communication going up and down. And so sometimes when I'm working with patients, if we stimulate the vagus nerve in a way that works for them and their nervous system, their stomach will start to actually gurgle
Oh,
right away,
wow.
or they'll have like a bowel movement, or they'll feel like they need to just sigh and relax. But everybody can stimulate it to a point because we all live in this very high stress
Hmm.
state. Our world, especially in North America, is very quick and fast paced and looking at deadlines all the time. And so the vagus nerve is responsible for bringing us into the present moment, calming our nervous system, allowing us to sleep properly. It's important for a deep restorative sleep. It allows us to recover after a workout. So it's very prominent in our lives. And so educating and letting people know about it, I guess, is the first
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. Do
And then
you,
they can kind of pick and choose what it's if it does sound like them.
I mean, I think, like I said, for me, everything you said is at some point a symptoms, or a symptom, but can these come and go? So like maybe if I have an upset stomach today, or I'm having trouble relaxing today, but tomorrow it's gone. Could that still be the vagus nerve? Or is the vagus nerve something that's just consistent? Like if it's
Yes
damaged,
and
is or
no. So it depends on your nervous system and really what's happened, like from a stress response or like a trauma response in your life. I look at vagal tone as a global response. So it can be overactivated some days or underactivated some days, yes, but it's on the average of how you're presenting, if that
okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So yes, you can have different symptoms on different days for sure, But generally, if your nervous system is one of higher stress or overwhelm or anxious, we're going to see some vagal tone issues. Versus if you're somebody who, generally has a relaxed nervous system and is able to recover from stressful events, they'll probably have a moderate to higher vagal tone. And so you're looking at that as an average, what their nervous system state's looking like.
Okay. Do you so obviously, like, anxiety, stomach issues, some of those things. What causes the aggravation? Is it like, the heightened, like you said, the go go go, or the deadlines, the heightened
Yeah.
anxiety in someone, or is there other reasons that it could get triggered too?
So there can be other reasons, but on in general, it's because of chronic stress or traumas that we haven't quite regulated our nervous system, because we do want to have stress in our life.
Hmm.
That's one thing we think that, oh, like no stress is good. No, we actually do need it to build resilience in our nervous system. But on average, um, we want to be able to shift out of that stress response. And that is where the vagus nerve does come into play. Um, so it's one of those things that you look at it as a global, how the person, like their past experiences, are they dealing with pain right now? Do they have a stressful job? What is their home life looking like?
Right. And then once you identify that someone is it safe to say, if you're not stimulating it or treating it, everybody's having issues?
I would say to some extent, yes.
Okay.
We all probably have not the great, especially with what we talked about with COVID and how the world has kind of shifted in a way. Um, I'm seeing it more commonly and more people are reaching out to me. Um, so yes, it's most people probably do have low vagal tone.
Mm.
So we can always improve it. It's never There's certain conditions like vasovagal syncope where they actually can faint if the vagus nerve is too overstimulated.
Hmm.
So it's a condition that you would know you have, but you would have to do it a lot in order to trigger the vasovagal syncope. But in the sense, most people, yes, probably have some low vagal tone.
That's so, like, I mean, here I am, or here we are, a lot of us listening probably having never heard of this or not knowing that, and we're all suffering from a condition
Yeah,
that's these symptoms that are caused because there's, not enough conversation about it. But uh,
yeah. But the vagus nerve, like it works with other systems. So it's not just one thing. We look at it from a hormonal response, from the digestive response, cardiovascular, neurotransmitter. So we do look at it as a global,
right. Well,
but
it's going through
we
your
can
whole body, or at least your whole
basically,
torso.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So large innervation, multiple different ways to stimulate it. And really does depend on the person. So,
Hmm.
doing what feels good for you and what makes your nervous system feel safe, that's when you know you've worked the vagus nerve.
Okay. And is this something that you need assistance from a chiropractor, a doctor, a massage therapist, or is this something you can sort of, uh, at least assess yourself outside of the symptoms, if not start, the stimulation process yourself?
Yeah, and it depends on, again, your stress response. If you are someone who is higher stress, um, a lot of people are tracking their heart rate variability these days, which is the gold standard for detecting your vagal tone. So if you have like a whip strap or a ring, I know
Oh,
Fitbit, sometimes some of them have them, the Apple Watch. So if you detect and track your heart rate variability, you can kind of assess where your nervous system state's at and if your vagal tone is high or low. But yeah, so you do want to take it as a global to see, like, am I stressed out? Do I
hmm,
sleep well? Do I carry inflammation that I just can't seem to get rid of in different areas? Am I having digestive problems? Do I have trouble taking that deep breath and feeling relaxed afterwards? Hoarseness in the throat, things like that.
right. When you've said inflammation a few times now, so obviously if you injure yourself, like you sprain your ankle, you break a finger or a bone, you're going to have visible inflammation. But inflammation is in the body, it's in the joints, it's in places that you can't necessarily see. It's actually, you should be saying this, not me. It's like very, very harmful to your long term health to have inflammation in the body. Is there any So how can people assess that, I guess, or how would you say, assessing, or how would you say to assess inflammation inside the body?
So that's again, it's not just saying, oh, my ankle's swollen because I rolled it. It is looking at that global systemic inflammation or that inflammatory response of, puffiness or just holding on to water weight, that inflammatory response. So the vagus nerve can actually help with more like low grade inflammatory responses.
Mm,
If we don't eat well, we're going to have, more digestive issues. That is an inflammatory effect. A lot of the foods that we're eating are inflammatory. The things that we do are inflammatory. So it is working on that global low grade inflammatory response to help to get rid of what we're kind of holding on to.
yeah. And I think too, it's interesting because I know I started research. I told you this, I think, before we were recording, so
Yeah.
I'll repeat it. I started researching after you reached out, and then I stopped because I kind of wanted to like learn in real time. But I saw that like there were some studies that have been done to show that it can improve, obviously, like anxiety. It can improve depression. It can, or this is treatment, of course, that you can really cure a lot of these ailments that I think so many people have. So, like, do you have you seen any of that research? Do you have any thoughts on that, or what have you seen in your own practice?
Yeah. So as a chiropractor, we can't technically, treat somebody from that saying, oh, you
Right.
have anxiety or you have this. But from the standpoint of what is their wellness state,
Hmm.
definitely we've seen increased moods and they just feel better. The biggest reason for that, again, it comes back a lot to the stomach because serotonin is about 95% of serotonin is in the stomach. And that is what allows us to feel that happiness and that
I didn't know
positive.
that.
Yeah, it's a large amount in the stomach. I mean, the number is always changing, so I
Yeah.
could be wrong on that, but it's in the 90s. So when our stomach is affected and we don't have the good bacteria, a lot of the good bacteria, and we're replacing it with bad bacteria, um, it can cause. We know there's studies that show that the brain gut axis can lead to disturbances in our moods. And from that standpoint of anxiety, depression, I read a study about depression too. And so,
Mm,
yes, it's directly connected and just helping us shift again back into that parasympathetic state where we can recover and rest and heal and be in the present. All of that combined can help for sure with our mood.
right. So the interesting thing, you said all the symptoms earlier, and I was like, I have that. Like, I'm a mouth breather. I hate it. I know it's a bad thing to do. I do have a deviated septum, so sometimes
Okay.
it's like hard to breathe through my nose. But
Yeah.
do you? What about like mouth breathing is so bad?
What about mouth breathing is so
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
from
Versus,
the
yeah.
versus nose breathing? So our mouth breathing is there as a survival response, right? So
Mm,
especially to like when there's a lot of sicknesses going around. So if we can't breathe through our nose, we need a secondary passageway, and that is the mouth. So it's a survival mechanism, which a lot of times it does put us more into that stress response, right?
right.
Surviving, we're living in
Okay.
the sympathetic state generally. From the vagus nerve standpoint, when we breathe through our mouth, we have low tongue posture, right? So when you're breathing through your mouth, you're like this. You're not bringing your tongue to the roof of the mouth, right?
Right. No,
Does that
no.
make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I'm just trying it as you're
Right?
showing me.
Yeah. So we're breathing like this, but our tongue isn't reaching the roof of the mouth.
Right.
So with the vagus nerve actually innervates our soft palate and a tiny muscle that actually causes us to elevate our tongue. So when we elevate our tongue,
Hmm.
close our mouth, breathe through our nose, we're stimulating the vagus nerve to allow us to feel calm. So from
Oh,
the vagus nerve standpoint, we're stimulating the vagus nerve by elevating our tongue posture. And there's been a lot of talk about, optimal tongue posture. Well, that is optimal tongue posture. It needs to rest on the roof of our mouth. So when it's resting on the roof of the mouth, we breathe through our nose.
I think we should all take a second and do that right now. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So,
So
can you,
you're
yeah,
instead of
guide us through again?
yeah, so breathe if you're breathing through your mouth, you're breathing with your tongue resting against your bottom teeth
Hmm.
essentially. The cue for it is reach the tip of your tongue up behind your front teeth, and then suction up, Close your mouth. Breathe through your nose. Right? And a lot of the gurus on breath work, you should breathe through your nose and exhale nice and long out through your nose. It's that
Yes.
physiological relaxation response.
So you shouldn't breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth.
That's okay. Technically, you would want to use your nose as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So optimal is in through the nose, out through the nose. Of course, we can breathe out through our mouth, but the most optimal results is
That's
through your nose, actually.
I'm thinking of like every yoga class I've ever taken, and I'm trying to think if any of them have taught this, and I don't think so because I think I would have remembered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And it's okay to breathe out through your nose, but when we have that chronic mouth breathing, or like, I don't know, sometimes if you like catch yourself at nighttime and your mouth's wide open, see where your tongue is, and it's gonna be like that,
Hanging
right?
out the
So
side of hanging out the side of your
yeah,
mouth.
yeah. And from an aesthetic standpoint too, right? So we've seen too, it actually like causes elongation of our face. It causes our palate, the roof of our mouth, to be more high and narrow. So that changes airways too. I'm not an
Oh my
airway specialist,
gosh.
but that does change airways too. So having your mouth closed, breathing through your nose, that's optimal.
What do you think about there's that tape? I forget what it's called. That tape
The
that
mouth tape.
is it literally called the mouth tape?
Yeah, it's like there's different. I know
Is
there's a bunch on the market right now, but yeah, it's mouth taping.
what do you think about that, or what are your thoughts on it if you have any?
I have never tried it because I've luckily trained myself enough to breathe through my nose. I've never had an issue with it. Um, it depends on the person, because someone with like sleep apnea, you don't want them to be
Right.
using that. So definitely have like an assessment first before jumping into it. But I know that people have said it's completely changed their life. They have more energy, they feel more rested, they're getting better sleep. But you can also like use it during the day too. Or if you don't want to fully have your mouth taped, what I've seen is just taping around the lips. And so just that the sensory stimulation around the lips, it actually
Ah,
triggers you to close your mouth too. So
okay.
you're not actually taping through or taping your mouth shut.
Okay. When people like me who sleep with their mouth open and breathe through their mouth the whole time, is that that's probably causing you to get less restful sleep, I would imagine,
Yeah.
also damaging or influencing, I guess we should say, the vagus nerve. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with
So that would be something to look into for sure for you, how to train yourself to not.
yeah, I was going to ask you if you had any thoughts. You said you trained yourself. What was that like? What'd you do?
So for me, I actually don't know if I have them here, but there's a company that I work with in my practice and with some of my clients too, and they're called MyoSpots. They're based out of Australia. But basically, they stick to the roof of your mouth just behind your front teeth, so it causes you to elevate your tongue. And so when you do elevate your tongue, you want to close your mouth. You're not
Hmm.
going to stay like that, right? So
Right.
have you ever gotten popcorn stuck in your teeth, like the
Yeah.
kernels?
Yeah.
Or like meat stuck in your tooth. So you know how annoying it is, and you're constantly trying to like flick it out with your tongue.
Mhm.
I describe it like that to my patients or clients, that you're constantly elevating your tongue to try and get it out, and so you're causing your mouth to close, forcing you to breathe through your nose.
Oh, okay. Now, do you think with a deviated septum like I have that that's dangerous to try, or do you think I'd be
To
okay?
try mouth
Yeah.
taping,
N-
I would definitely get it assessed first,
Okay.
because you are having, it is definitely an altered
Right.
breathing
Right.
capacity. So
But
again, I don't.
it is worth talking to your doctor about it or your chiropractor or
I
whomever.
would see for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Definitely. If and especially if you do feel like some mornings you wake up like, did I even sleep? Like, did I
Every
even
morning.
have any right every morning? So yeah, for you, I would say that that would be a great point to start at
Okay. You know,
for sure.
it's so funny because literally like this week I was like, okay. And I think we were talking about this before we started recording, but like this year it's the
Hmm.
end of January. This year just
Yeah.
feels like it's just like happening, and it's just already, starting it. And I feel like I haven't done anything. And so this week I was like, you know what? Starting Wednesday, when I wake up, I'm setting an alarm for 8:30. I'm getting up, I'm getting my day started sooner, and I'm not a morning person, so that's hard for me to do in general. And
Yeah.
then currently I'm unemployed, so it's even harder because I don't have that time, which actually I think is okay. Like I think if you can still get your stuff done on your own timeline, that's fine. But I have woken up these last 3 days where I was determined. My year's off to the start, off to the races now. And I
Yeah.
just wake up and I'm like, I am so tired. I don't
Tired.
know what it is. I'm going to bed earlier. I don't know what it
Hmm.
is, but it's just I can't like get that. And I'm sure it's winter, it's dark all the time in Chicago
Yeah.
with cloudy skies and all that stuff, but yeah,
Hmm.
I've just been feeling so like out of it lately.
Yeah. I have heard a lot too. And so again, I would look to your nervous system capacity as well to see what I always explain it to people as like the cup that's too full. So if you are taking
Ooh,
on too much mental, physical, emotional, it's
so it's
overflowing, right? It's overflowing our nervous system.
yeah.
And so sometimes there's no supplement to take for that. Sometimes there's no hack for it. It's really
Yeah.
looking into what are the changes that do need to be made so that I can build my nervous system capacity. And that's where I use the vagus nerve is to help build it so that you're more in that parasympathetic state so that you can tolerate and handle more. And whether
Yeah.
that's good or bad, it's dependent on you.
Right. But if you do train it or you stimulate it and you have a healthy vagus nerve, it sounds like you could really see improvements like with, your sleep quality, maybe insomnia, your gut health, your brain health,
Yeah.
help support your anxiety, your mental health in general. I mean, like
Yeah.
where do we
It
sign
really
up?
is. Right. It really is mental and physical. The vagus nerve, it does have that direct link and it's bi-directional too. So it goes about 80% of the fibers are sensory. So they go from our organs up to our brain, 20% control the motor response.
Oh
And
wow.
then we add in the parasympathetic response to it too. So when you do learn about it and kind of assess your lifestyle and assess, do I do this? Yes, no. Do I do this? Yes or no? You can kind of pinpoint and see, okay, what would be the best way for me to stimulate it to get the most optimal results? And it does take time. It's not
Right.
just a one hack thing. It's not that. And again, all systems work together. So it is really looking at your life and figuring out what would work best for you and your
Mhm.
nervous system.
It's almost like it's like the information highway
Yeah,
moving between all your organs, your brain, and your gut.
totally.
Yeah. I've
Yeah,
I
yeah.
al- I have I had some pretty like weird stomach issues when I was in high school, and then they resurfaced throughout my adult life. Like I eventually got really into like gut health, and
Yeah.
I've done a lot of food elimination,
Hmm.
some based on like trial and error, and some based on like allergen tests and stuff like that. And I can say like from experience, just the like clean eating makes
Yes.
such a difference across the board. And I feel
Yeah.
like I just posted this on Instagram the other day, but there's like so much shit in all of our food and everything
Hmm.
right now too, especially
Hmm.
here in the States. I don't know how much better it is in Canada, but I
Hmm.
would imagine it's probably a little bit better. But we
Hmm.
have depends, right?
It depends, yeah.
But
As with anything.
yeah, like is there like specific foods, or you've mentioned supplements a couple times, so even that, like foods and supplements that you can eat and consume to help with the health of your vagus nerve?
Yes. So, um, omega 3s, so like your
Mm,
fish, good quality fish, really anything that's going to help with the inflammation. So, always taking like I always take a probiotic no
yeah.
matter what, and some type of prebiotic that's going to help the gut flora. Um, from the inflammatory response, like I said, your omega 3s, your fish, really anything that's going to not spike the inflammatory response or
Mm,
spike any sort of like insulin response. But again, we're all human, we make mistakes. And so it's a matter of like the recovery, like how well we can
right.
actually recover afterwards too.
Right. Well, as someone who really tries their best to
Yeah.
avoid bad foods, like anyone listening, the slip up is totally fine, totally normal. And
Yeah.
I I I remember for years ago, I read a Men's Health article interview with The Rock, and he has a cheat day. And so,
Yeah.
or I don't know if he does anymore. The guy's like built of stone, but um, cheating's okay. Giving yourself a little
Hmm.
grace and having a donut or eating that pizza or even that fast food.
Totally.
Yeah. What's your vice, by
Yeah.
the way? I should have asked you that in the opening part.
Of what diet?
Yeah, yeah.
Dieting or just I'm someone who's like 80/20. Like I used to compete in fitness shows back
Oh
in
wow.
university. And so from then on I've been very good at knowing my body, thankfully. So I do go by the 80/20 rule because I love pasta, like I
I know.
said.
I thought
I
you might
love a
say
good
that.
Yeah, I love a good glass of wine. Like I'm not going to, because you do need it emotionally sometimes and physically you feel like you're craving it. So
Hmm.
80/20 is how I live by. But again, like I said, I've been very good at knowing my body because of what I've gone through.
Hmm.
But for my patients and clients, you cannot beat yourself up because that's only going to trigger more
Yeah.
stress and then cravings, and do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Truly, just do what makes you happy.
I'm caught up on you're like, oh, a good glass of wine. I'm like, it doesn't have to be good for me. Sometimes I'm just taking that. I drink my
Yeah.
wine out of a box most of the time. So
Yeah. With the spout.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, literally. No shame
That's so
here.
funny.
Yeah, no shame
Yeah.
here. Get
Yeah.
4 bottles.
And sometimes it makes you just feel better.
Yeah,
Whether whether it's good for us or not, sometimes you just need something
yeah.
that makes you feel good.
So the fish or the omega threes, that's something I think a lot of people, they know they should take it. They don't know why they should take it, and I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing to say. It's like this is literally going to help your gut. That's
Yeah.
the prebiotics and the probiotics too. I actually just started um 2 months ago now, maybe doing athletic greens every morning. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, because it's like the prebiotic, the probiotic, and I intermediate fast too, and not
Hmm.
because of any thing I've necessarily read, or I mean I've read about it, but I used to not eat breakfast when I was, because I'm not a morning person, so I'd always be running late for school, and so I would never eat breakfast. And I don't know if my body trained then or not, but I went through this whole stage where I was like, oh, I'm going to do the 6 meals a day, and
Hmm.
I felt like crap the whole day, and I was always hungry,
Yeah.
just always hungry.
Yeah.
And so now what I do is I take the athletic greens and probably around like 11 or 12 as sort of like my breakfast lunch thing, and it I've noticed a difference. Like I've noticed
Hmm.
a difference in like not as much bloating, and that's the prebiotics, the probiotics, the greens, the vitamins, all that stuff. I've noticed like
Yeah.
I don't really ever feel bloated anymore, which is
Interesting. Yeah.
interesting. But
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
It's all connected to the gut and
Hmm.
just, yeah, how well your body's able to metabolize and communicate for sure.
Exactly. And that's why, like, when I started eliminating foods and stuff, I noticed how important the gut is. It's
Yeah.
so much more important. And I think people are learning, just like, with everything, we're all on our journey,
Hmm.
but it's so important to make sure that you have a healthy gut.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, with the vagus nerve going back and forth with information to the brain and all the
Yeah.
organs.
It's the biggest communicator for sure
Yeah.
of the gut brain axis. It is the gut brain axis. That's how it does talk to and from. So it's very interesting. And it also works with the heart too, which is um, an interesting feature about it too, because it's great for, like I said, that social connection. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I'm seeing too with people with the world that we've lived in as well the last 2, 3 years is we miss that social connection. And so our vagus nerve
Hmm.
wasn't really being stimulated with seeing
Yeah.
people
It doesn't
and
happen through
talking and
video.
not the same
Yeah.
for sure. And I actually just read a study yesterday that even just like a 20-second hug for somebody, like it might seem long, but that 20 seconds is great for like oxytocin release. It's the happy hormones as well. And it stimulates your vagus nerve because it just, when you're done, you just feel, like you just feel relaxed and
Yeah.
calm. So that's something we were missing. That's a huge piece of the puzzle is that social interaction, that social connection. And we do actually regulate our nervous systems with other people,
Right.
as cool as that seems, right? So that's another interesting feature as well.
That's so interesting. I when COVID hit, I think for the
Yeah.
first few weeks, at first, so I'm introverted. A lot of people don't believe that. I'm introverted. So I was like, this is great. I have been training
Yeah.
my whole life for this. But then like time went on and it was so long and it was like weeks
Yeah.
and months. And like, I just remember there was points where I'd even speak out loud, like to someone at the store or something,
Hmm.
or to a delivery driver, bless them for working through all that. And
Hmm.
I was literally just like, do I even know how to talk in real
Yeah.
life anymore, let alone like, and then, the shame of being more than 6 feet, close
Yeah.
to each other. It's
I
like,
know.
it
I
was
know.
just so dangerous. And I can imagine that contributed to so many people's loneliness. And we're lonelier now than we've ever been. There was a study
Yeah.
that came out not that long ago. It's very sad. So it really is, like you said, it is the connection through the brain, the heart, and the gut.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm,
It plays a huge role in it, a huge role in us being able to feel calm and to feel safe within our body too. And that's something that a lot of people do struggle with is they don't feel that safeness within themselves. Yeah, and so that is the vagus nerve speaking, and it's needing some love to help
yeah.
us feel safe again and to regulate ourselves and to wake up feeling rested and to not feel that fatigue and to not feel like, that constant overwhelm as
Hmm.
well. So it's
Which I
it's
think,
the wellness nerve, in my opinion.
oh, can you say that again? Because I cut you off.
The wellness nerve, it makes you feel well in your life. So the wellness nerve. That's me
That's
calling it that.
Well, let's get
But it really is, it's
hashtag
connected.
wellness nerve. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That's
so it's connected to so many different things.
yeah. That's so interesting, and I feel like this is really good because I don't think a lot of people know about it. Although when I have talked to some people, they're like, "Yeah, duh, like where have you been?" But like,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's
you'll hear about it more and more now, for sure.
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
Do you have anything that you want to share about it that I haven't asked you yet? I know I was
I
basic
had,
like 101.
yeah, no, I had some things written down too to make sure that I didn't forget. The biggest one, because I know for you, listening to your podcast, you're invested in learning about your gut. So I knew I wanted to focus on that to help you and your audience. But it's huge in so many other things, like for our cravings, our
Mm,
hunger, how we feel after eating a meal too. Helps to regulate our blood sugar. It's stimulated with breathing techniques. It's you can actually innervate it or stimulate it within your ear. So there's a lot of different
oh
ways
wow.
that it does show up in the body. I know breath work is a big thing for a lot of people too. Like it's that word that everyone's kind of tossing around,
Right.
breath work. And so it is involved in that too because it tells our body and our brain about lung expansion. So working through different volumes of lung capacity and lung volume, that's the vagus nerve talking too,
Oh
as well
wow.
as focusing on the exhale. We're pushing ourselves into a relaxing state.
The breathwork thing that you and I just did a few minutes ago, like you can do that in your car, you can do that before bed, you can do it while you're cooking, you can do it while you're watching TV, you can do it while you're recording a podcast.
Yeah,
That's a really good place. I think people should start.
yeah,
And I'm going to do it. I'm like literally going to put a post-it on my computer here, and then I'm going to try and remind my. So one thing that helps me remember to do things is I like associate it with something. So I'm
yeah,
going to try and associate it with like going to the dog park or going to the grocery store so that I remember to do it. So maybe that'll help some
yeah.
people out there. But it's an easy one that we can just start with if you don't have other resources to tap into as well.
Yes, yeah. And so the two that I really love is the physiological sigh. Have you heard of that before?
I haven't.
So it's when you take a deep breath in as much as you can, and then you're going to take another quick one, and it's going to be not as much, but it's quick, and then you breathe out.
I didn't know that's what it was called, but I do that.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is great for it. Um, and one where you take a deep breath in again, and you say the word VU really deeply. This one has been linked to improving digestion. So some people, I recommend it to do
Mm.
it before they eat. So you take a deep breath in and say VU very deeply, all the way out. So the vagus nerve, it helps to influence our vocal cords,
Oh,
right? And
okay.
so when you're humming, that is a way that can actually help to stimulate it, and it helps with digestion
That's good to know. So
and increasing
humming.
the digestive processes. Humming is a big one. Gargling as hard as you can is another great way to stimulate it too.
Now,
I like
just
to
with
do it.
water. Oh, go ahead. Sounds like you're going to answer
No,
that.
that's what I was getting. Yeah. So I like to do it with salt water because you're actually helping your oral microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
So your biofilm in there. So doing it with salt water, do it in the shower too, because you are going to kind of spill, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to gargle as hard as you can. It's not gentle, it's very, very deep to a point. You don't want to strain the neck, but you want to feel it deep within the vocal cords.
Okay. So we've got some
So,
breath
yeah,
work, gargling. Yeah.
breath work, gargling, working on your posture is great for the vagus nerve too. Coming from a chiropractor, we all need to improve our posture because we are like this all
Yep.
the time.
Hunched over.
Um, Hunched over, and with the vagus nerve influencing, there's connection with it with the top two vertebrae of our neck. So working on your posture and having your ears in line with your shoulders instead of like this, you're like this, can help with the vagus nerve, and you're improving your vagal tone. I know everyone's hearing this, they're probably like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to
Oh my God.
straighten
I
up
know.
now.
I'm like sitting here straightening up, and then you're like ears over their shoulders. I'm like, I'm already hunching again. So I
Yeah,
got to like.
yeah, for sure. I said positive social interactions, cold exposure when you were talking about that.
I was
I like
saving
to
that for
turn.
last. Let's
Yeah,
get into it. Cold
let's get into
showers.
it.
I can't
Yes.
do it. I have tried, and it's just I can't stay in it for long enough, and I know it. I need to do it. So talk
So
about cold
start
showers.
small. Yeah. So the way that it works with cold showers is initially you actually are stimulating your sympathetic response. So your fight or flight response, right? You kind of tense up, you're uncomfortable, you're not feeling quite safe in your body. You're like, get me out of here. But then it's over time when you learn to that. So for you, that's actually great you're saying that, because that means you need to do it a little bit more essentially
Hmm.
to have you tap into the parasympathetic response to feel good enough to stay in there. And then afterwards, when you're done, your body feels light, relaxed, you have better blood flow, recovery, and then that's when you're in your parasympathetic state, if that makes sense. So that's the vagus nerve shifting you into that parasympathetic state.
It does. Now, is that every time you shower? So if you shower in the morning, shower at night, or should you
So
schedule
I
it?
do
Or
it. Yeah. So it depends on you, what you're comfortable with. I just do it the last 2 to 3 minutes of my shower.
2 to 3 minutes. How cold are we
But I've
talking?
worked my yeah. I go as cold as you can tolerate.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I started small though, like 30 seconds for like a few days, and then you just gradually increase and increase and increase. But there's different places now where they have like plunge pools. So
Hmm.
it's like you're all in, like you're in and you can't get out kind of thing. So that's pretty aggressive at the start. So I would just start small, turn the shower down, and then stand for like 30 seconds.
We have yeah, I mean, I'm thinking sometimes I'll go at night for some reason my shower takes a little bit longer to heat up. So I'll go to get in, and if I don't give it that like minute to heat up, I'm like
Hmm.
in there, it's probably like 70 degrees. It's not even that bad. And I'm like, oh, and then I hop out and wait for it to heat
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
So it's
gonna
okay to have
commit
your
to
hot
it.
shower. Just try and, yeah, commit to it and just see how you feel. See how you
Yeah.
feel. It's not supposed to be comfortable. It's actually good for us to get in those uncomfortable
Right.
states, right?
We have I feel like this is a big thing, but it's probably just me being in the city here, but we have something called the polar plunge, which is people
Yeah.
jumping into Lake Michigan in the dead of winter.
Yeah.
It's probably I don't know when it is, but it's probably soon.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's another thing where my friends are like, oh, we want to do this, we want to do this. I'm like, I will come and spectate, but I'm not doing it.
Well, that's why it
Yeah.
builds tolerance actually within your nervous system.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about like, have you ever done like what are those called? Cryo chambers, or what are they called? Do you know which ones I'm talking about?
Similar, yeah,
Yeah. Is
yeah,
that
like the
this?
cryotherapy,
Yes,
similar to that
yeah.
too.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of athletes, yes, exactly, and even like athletes you'll see them with like ice buckets too. So
Yes.
the cryotherapy, it is a similar mechanism. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anything else about the vagus nerve chiropractic that you wanted to cover?
There's a lot, but just
We could do a second
I could go
episode
on.
too.
Yeah, I could go on forever, but really it is connected to so many different aspects of your life. And so if you are struggling with something, do your research, connect with the right person. We can all use some nervous system love. And
Hmm.
so a lot of it is things that we normally should be doing, like getting good sun exposure in the morning,
I talk about that all
surrounding
the
our,
time on social media. You got to
yeah,
get that early sun exposure. It makes such a difference.
such a difference, totally. And, decreasing the blue light at nighttime and having different like red lights or different orange lights at nighttime to help with our circadian rhythm. So it's all that wellness approach. And I always talk about the pillars of health, and sleep for me is the biggest one to
Mm,
start with. So if you're struggling with sleep, look to the vagus nerve, see what you can do to improve that, and then build on that.
yeah, I'm starting to really get terrified by how little I've slept my whole life. And I there's so much research you can read, so many resources like yourself, Dr. Abby we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Dr. Huberman. He's
Yes.
the he's great too.
Mm-hmm.
I learned so much from all of you, and I think it's scaring the crap out of me that I haven't slept enough in my life, and it's going to come back to get me. So I'm really trying to this year. It was I don't really do New Year's resolutions, but I kind of decided after my whole job loss thing, I was like, this is something I'm gonna do during this time, is
Yeah.
like focus on getting myself, um, you know, even though I'm not a morning person, I'm gonna get there a little bit, get
Yeah.
that sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's different ways to do that and different ways to like investigate and kind of see what it is that would help improve that.
Yeah.
So you have few different avenues for sure to look
Yeah,
down.
exactly. Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
I would love to. We'll have you on again if you want to come on, and we'll talk about some of the other stuff that we didn't get to
Yeah,
today.
for
But
sure.
yeah, I wanted to give you a couple minutes here if you had any questions you wanted to ask me.
So I had the one that I was thinking about today, and it's just fun and light. But if you were in a movie, who would you want to play you?
Oh, I love that question. I love that question. So I would. So my two favorite actors are Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. So
Yeah.
I would want to say one of them,
Okay.
but I feel like I would need just to do a service to so many people for my life have thought like that Dax Shepard and I sound and look alike. I
Okay.
don't see it, but I think that would be a disservice if I didn't cave into people who do see it and
Yeah.
ask
Yeah.
him to do it.
That's so funny. That's yeah. I know. And then it's funny how people have like different views of us or how
Hmm.
they like their perspective of us. So for you, you're like, yes, Brad Pitt for
Yeah,
sure. And then other people are like, no.
I know. Well, it's so funny too
Like,
because like I used to just idolize Brad Pitt when him and Jennifer
mm-hmm,
Aniston were together. Oh, that was the
mm-hmm.
other fun question I wanted to ask you. The
Yeah, I
Rachel
was gonna
Green
say.
thing. How did that? How did this happen? The
Yeah.
I mean, and part of me was like, I can't say it. She probably gets it all
Hmm.
the time. It's so stupid. But do you get that all the
Yeah.
time?
All the time.
Yeah.
Like even security people like at international airports are like looking at my passport, like, that's your name? I'm like, yes. Like it
Yes.
happened to me in Cuba a few years
Oh my
ago.
gosh. Like, no,
But yeah, I was born before the show,
I was going to
so
say,
I always say they copied me.
yes. They say everybody has um, like a plus, or I don't know if anyone, my friends and I say it's like everyone has a plus and minus version. So if professionally, you would be the plus version of Friends Rachel Green because you're a doctor.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I do always get that.
Yeah. I mean, I
Just
can
funny.
imagine. Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a great thing to be associated with. I
I
think
think
she's wonderful, and if everyone loves Friends,
so.
so
Hmm.
I'll take it.
Yeah, and I took me a long time to forgive Brad Pitt for
Yeah,
what he did to Jennifer Aniston.
yeah,
So, well, I shouldn't say that. We still don't know,
uh,
but for what happened with
yeah,
them. But
yeah,
yeah, I love her too. I love both of
yeah.
them.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then the last question I have them written down here. What is if you were to have like your most relaxing day ever, what would you do?
Oh my gosh. So I would literally, I like to, I don't sleep super late in the morning, but I like to I like to take my time and ease into the day.
Hmm.
I actually just did a video on this where it's
Yeah.
like I kind of do my stuff and then I make my bed and then it's off to the races. That's when my day
Yeah.
starts. And so I would like to do that, but I would love to do it on a beach, and it would be probably 80, not very humid. And all I really have to do is maybe get in some like beach yoga, but then just make the decision throughout the day if I want to go to the beach or do I want to go to the pool, or do I want to go to the pool and then the beach? And then someone's going to bring me pina coladas, and I just don't even have to ask. And then it'll probably have some of my favorite foods. And that's probably it.
Yeah. So vacation is what you need.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. Well, that to me, like that is just so like, there's something about the beach and the water and the sand.
Yeah.
And even a pool, like where you still go to the beach. It's just so relaxing to me. Like the water just really relaxes me. The sound of it, the smell of it, a light breeze. It's just so relaxing to me. That's where I feel like I'm most connected with nature.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I've always lived by water, and I don't think I could ever not be near like a large body of water. So I totally agree. Warmer the better for sure.
I was going to say, like, I don't want to go anywhere near the water at Lake Michigan now here.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not doing a polar plunge, so
no.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
Yeah. No, that was
Awesome.
it. Those were the 2 questions I had.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you share, I just want to share with the audience too, you share a lot of valuable information and health information, wellness information, not just on the vagus nerve, but across the health board on your Instagram. I find it very helpful. So thank you for that. And do you want to tell people where they can find you and give you a follow?
Yeah, for sure. So on Instagram, I am at the Blonde Chiro. It's a funny name. I love it though. It's just my identity. So at the Blonde Chiro. And really that's the only place that I have and that I'm way more social and active on. So check me out on Instagram.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Conversations with Nick Thompson. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to follow us and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Links can be found in the description below, and we can't wait to see you next time.